landing split. Flick of that toe to propel you backwards. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Skaterade.
All right, welcome to the Skaterade podcast. I'm Jasmine.
I'm Mac.
And we have a very special guest today who wears many hats in our lives.
Many hats.
The beloved Roxy Dallas, better known as Roxy Dallas.
Roller Derby extraordinaire, longtime skater and blocker on Gotham, longtime captain of Gotham All-Stars, also skate shop manager at Five Stride, and general all-around weirdo. And we cannot wait to interview her and have her on this podcast.
Very appropriate you would introduce me as Roxanne the week that my mom arrives in town. That she put that energy out into the world for people to call me Roxanne.
Yeah.
She manifested that introduction.
100%.
So your mom gave you a derby name at birth. Do you think she's psychic?
She's something. She's sure something. If another name that was in contention was Diesel Dallas, that was also an option. So either way, really set up for a life of being a strange person, for sure. Yeah. Yep. Diesel. I had a good friend, Haley, in high school whose parents had also prepared to potentially name her Hoover. So we were Hoover and Diesel.
Hoover is harsh. Diesel is kind of a cool name, but yeah. Hoover as a first name.
No.
Listen, strange people reproducing. This is what happens.
So you're a native New Yorker with an unconventional upbringing. Can you tell the listeners about the home that you grew up in?
Sure. So I grew up on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, Stanton and Clinton. And it was a industrial space, like a kind of warehouse commercial space. It had gone through many permutations, many lives. I think it had been a theater and a refrigerator repair shop. So there were like big long beams along the ceiling, very tall ceilings. Mac knows Crash Pad well, Gotham's Crash Pad. Very, very similar space. Big open warehouse. And yeah, no walls. Only room that had a door was the bathroom. Yeah, and we had a freaky old time in there.
I just feel like my experience of you is we had a freaky old time in all the best ways.
Well, you see why. That was the the baseline experience of growing up there was like, hey, listen, there are no rules. Reality is what you make it. You can't see outside. Anything could be happening outside. It could be like sun is shining, aliens could be attacking, like truly anything was possible. So you're just inside this space making your own reality. It was great.
Incredible. Yeah, I feel like you're one of the people, I don't know, like you're just, of all the people I know, I feel like you're one of the like kind of grittiest, like just like kind of down for whatever in a lot of different ways, but also like very kind of firm and boundaried in certain ways, kind of take no shit. And I mean, I don't know a whole lot of native New Yorkers, but I feel like some of that has to be attributed to that experience on some level.
So Roxy's mom recently moved back to New York City, and I had the distinct pleasure of hearing her voice for the first time today, and she had a very pronounced New York accent, which I loved hearing.
That bitch is from Queens. Oh, it's the best. It's so good. It's so good. You know, it's very easy as somebody who grew up here to feel like it's not always for you, you know, like you grew up in a place that's like for other people. Especially if you get like priced out of a neighborhood, or, you know, in my case, if your childhood home becomes a series of restaurants, or, you know what I mean? It's a little surreal. So having family makes it nice. It makes it feel a little more like real life.
Cute. But you also were like in like 4-H or something growing up, right? Because you were like showing goats and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're living in the Lower East Side.
Yeah, no, truly, I had a whole bunch of separate realities to enjoy and navigate as a young person, which is, we've talked about, I think, the concept of the wide menu versus the narrow menu. If you've got a wide menu in life, you know lots of things are possible beyond maybe just what you do or what you like, that there's a wide menu for people to order from in terms of, how they live their lives or what they choose to do. And it definitely helped to be able to like have these firsthand experiences that had nothing to do with each other, basically, like, playing ice hockey up and down the Eastern Seaboard for, 2/3 of the year, and then spending the summer upstate just talking to goats, just having conversations with goats.
So let's kind of get into the skating of it all. Can you give us a rundown of how you got into skating and what that journey has looked like over time?
Yeah. So I've been, ice and roller skating, been skating for most of my life. I started ice skating at age 8. I went to the old sky rink, which was in Midtown up at the top of a really tall skyscraper building, and just went there to ice skate for fun, open session. Yeah, and it was right around, please don't ask me to remember what year this is, actually, but right around the Tanya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan situation. They had cameras, like some local news had cameras, and they were interviewing people at Skyrink, like, what do you think of this situation that happened? And I was really little, and I was just there for like open skate session. They asked me, and I was like, it's not nice. It wasn't nice. That's what I think. It wasn't nice. They were like, okay. But I have this like very, very clear memory. I mean, clearly it changed my whole life. But later at the Chelsea Pier Sky Rink, I was similarly, my mom really enjoyed ice skating. So she took me again to open session. There was a girl, she probably had to be like 12 or 13 or something. But when you're a little kid, teenagers, like even young teenagers, seem like 35-year-olds to you. You're like, that is an adult. And so I remember very clearly this adult, not adult, coming to open session in her hockey gear.
Cool.
And you're not allowed to have your stick with you for open sessions. But she wasn't wearing her helmet, but she was wearing like her full kit otherwise, like maybe no gloves, but like full kit otherwise. And I just like told my mom, I want to do that. Mm-hmm. That's what I want to do. So she started me in ice hockey. I had to take a figure skating class as a prerequisite to being able to go play ice hockey. We can only guess at why. And I did that. We had a show at the end of the intro figure skating session. I came in 4th out of 4. I was very upset. I see you laughing. I was very upset. I did not think it was funny at the time. It was really very visually perfect. There were like 3 true like figure divas, full, costumes, and the like bedazzled dresses and everything, like little gloves, perfect. And I was wearing an outfit that probably you've seen me come to work in.
What, overalls?
Like stretch pants and like overalls. I was wearing Carhartt overalls and a t-shirt I had cut out 5 years ago. Yeah, pretty much. I was just wearing like casual clothes, and I was wearing ice hockey skates, and I came in 4th out of 4, and I was distraught. And my mom gave me Crazy Sexy Cool, TLC's Crazy Sexy Cool, on cassette tape as my consolation prize.
You're a winner, Meg. Here you go. You're a winner.
That was an amazing album, though.
That's an incredible album.
That's a great prize.
And truly, what a way to receive it. I was like, I am deeply emotionally vulnerable in this moment. What does TLC have to say about it?
Mom was like, no,
and they delivered. They
You're
came
crazy,
through for
sexy,
me.
cool.
Aww.
We got you.
Yeah. So that was my consolation prize. And then it was just hockey from there on out. That was my life for probably from like 9 years old through 18, 19. That was what I did. That was my numero uno. And I stopped playing hockey in college, or like when I was getting ready for college, because the recruitment process, and I'm sure Mac can speak to this as well, the recruitment process was really gross to me. I found it pretty gross and weird. Parents were being fucking weird about like, scouts are coming to see my daughter. She has to have the most minutes, and you can't play your child because my child is being scouted by Middlebury. And it's like, come on, these are children.
Honestly, like, it's so good that you noticed and recognized that it was gross at that age. Because for me, like, I think I was in a place where I just bought into it, and it just made me feel really bad about myself, because I just always felt the pressure of like, I'm going to this tournament, my coach is telling me what scouts are going to be there, and I'm not getting playtime, even though I feel like I'm working super hard and trying to prove myself. And I would leave a lot of games and tournaments like crying and being like, here's these girls that are like 16 and I'm 18 and I'm about to age out, and they're getting more playtime than I am. But I'm the one that has more at stake right now because I'm trying to play college hockey. And it just, for me, like, I just internalized it a lot. So I'm like, good for you that you were like, this is gross. Like, I'm kind of opting out, because for me, I think I just took it really personally, and it was a really intense experience for sure.
So it sounds super political.
Kind of, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's something the listeners might not know about Roxy and Mac. They both grew up playing ice hockey and both became roller derby stars.
You were playing girls hockey, right? Were you playing like travel?
I started in the Skyrink House League at 8, and I did House League until, or 9, whatever. And I did House League until like peewee age. And at that point, I had kind of done all I could do in the House League. It was at a time where they were pretty much boys' teams, and I was by myself in the locker room, like, that old chestnut gearing up in a different locker room, and the boys that's not really wanting you there. And of course, there were a bunch of teammates that I had that were really great and cool, and I have a lot of cool memories with them. But it was a boys' team pretty much, and I was just also there. And to kind of take the next step to travel, it wasn't gonna do for me to go and play on boys travel hockey, and there was girls hockey available in Pelham. And so I went out to Pelham to play travel hockey, I guess. Yeah, what's peewee? 12?
Yeah, like probably U12, U13.
Probably around 12. I started playing girls travel hockey. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I think I knew that, but I couldn't remember like where you played or like how long you did that whole situation for.
Yeah. I played in Pelham. I played in Jersey. I played for 2 different teams in Jersey. Jersey takes its high school sports real fucking serious. Jersey does not play about its high school hockey. So it was a wild time. And my mom and I literally were just talking today about going out on the bus to Hackensack and to South Orange, New Jersey for a practice after school. It was again, a freaky old time. Freaky old time, let me tell you.
Definitely. So, okay, so college rolls around. So did you opted out? You chose not to pursue college hockey?
Yeah, believe me, I don't think at 18 I had the perspective of like, this behavior is gross. This is, I don't think I was like super in possession of that beyond like, this feels bad.
Yeah.
It feels bad. I'm not enjoying it. Doesn't like, in the way that ice hockey like captured my heart, became my whole life, like real first love vibes. It lost it, I fell out of love with it because the culture was bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do remember though that there were, a series, and of course we're talking about my mom and everything, but there was a situation where, or I guess I should say this, all along, my mom was very aware herself of how different culturally the ice hockey world was generally than where we were living our day-to-day life, and would, go out of her way to kind of point out where things crossed a line for her or weren't right for her. So though that's not my experience, not my lived experience of what was crossing the line for her, it kind of validated that it wasn't like, oh, our experience is wrong and this like very moneyed kind of experience was right. It was like highlighting that it was different. And then I remember this really specific time, like right before I stopped playing, where I had been playing with the New Jersey Colonials. They had invited me to come join the team, and it was right before a game or a tournament of some type in Boston. And the Colonials were a very competitive team. They were more competitive than the teams that I had been playing on previously. And they invited me out. I got the uniform. I did the whole thing. We went to Boston, and I got benched. They weren't playing me. And I was really confused and upset. And I think, it wasn't, it didn't make any sense to me, and not in a way of like, I'm the best ice hockey player to ever live. The idea that you wouldn't play me is that, it's not that. It was more like, why did you ask me to come here? Why did you, recruit me in some way for me to then ride the bench, on this trip? And I was really upset about it and confused. It was this brand new team, and there hadn't been any communication. And I was really upset. And we were back in the hotel room, and I said, I don't want to play. I don't understand, and I don't want to play, and I feel bad. And my mom was like, great, we're leaving. Acela tickets, like Amtrak tickets. And we left. We were out. We were gone like the next morning. And the coach was like, what's going on? And she was like, nah, she's not feeling it. So we're leaving.
Amazing parenting.
We choose to do this. We can choose not to. We were out. It was great.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's mom really having your back. Or at least like really listening to you, and being like, okay.
I was just going to say that it, kind of validated all throughout playing boys hockey. I wanted to do it. You know what I mean? It was hard. And there were times where I came home and I was upset because somebody was shitty to me, or like, something upsetting happened on the ice or on the bench or something like that. But I wanted to do it regardless of, the sort of challenges, emotional and mental challenges of it. But once I got to a point where I was like, no, I don't want to do it, then don't do it. Then recognize that. Like, it's not something you want to do that's challenging you in a way that you find upsetting, which is valid, but you're saying you don't want to do it, so don't. Yeah. Don't do it to please somebody else or because you are expected to or anything like that.
I'm really curious, like, what did you love about hockey? Like, what drew you into hockey? What were the things that really like made you feel like this is it for me?
There's part of it that I don't know because I was little.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like, why did I say I don't know. It was a purely emotional, intuitive reaction to seeing something and being like, me. That's me. Me. It is me. I don't even fully have a concept of myself formed at 8, but I was like, that is it. Don't know what it is, but that's part of it. Yeah. So there's part of it that I can't speak to, but it was, just my 8-year-old lizard brain reacting to ice hockey on some sort of instinctual level. But as I got older, I think it's a lot of the things we love about roller derby, right? Not so much culturally, of course, but, contributing to a greater whole, working towards goals, the physical exertion of it, the like pride that you feel from it, right? I think contact sports for me really gives me a really grounded relationship with my body, in that like I might be frustrated at times, but I am proud of what my body can do. It's 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 an act of passion. You're allowed to be passionate, you're allowed to be intense, aggressive, all of the sort of controversial buzzwords of contact sports. And that like sense of contributing to a greater whole without, the dogma of some of the kind of more serious group pursuits, you might say.
So when did you find roller derby?
I found roller derby. Shout out to Katie Vaughn. All glory to Katie Vaughn in the highest. Katie Vaughn is a tattoo artist here in Brooklyn, former Brooklyn bombshell with Gotham Roller Derby. And she and I met in the year 2009, 2010, something like that. I think 2010. And we're working at a cafe together. And she gave me my first tattoos. And I got 2 tattoos from her on the same night at like a, tattoo party at whatever loft she was living in at the time. I felt very, very, very cool. And then I went to see her again for a much larger tattoo on my leg and took like 5-6 hours. She did it all in one shot. And, towards the end, we just had to, you have to talk. You have to like be really present because you're in a lot of pain. So, at least for me, it's like I can't check out. I have to check in. And we were talking about hockey, and she was telling me about derby, and she was like, yeah, you got to come check it out. Like, it sounds like you would really like it. And actually, I am working at Five Stride tomorrow. I guess the Gotham All-Stars were traveling somewhere. Bonnie and OMG were out of town, and Katie was covering the store. And so she was like, yeah, I'm working at Five Stride tomorrow. Why don't you come over and I'll like sell you some skates and we can fuck around. And I went to Five Stride when it was on Graham Avenue and bought some R3s, of course.
Classic.
And went, and Katie took me and our friend Taylor, who was also working with us at the time, under the BQE. And we just like skated as fast as we could. Couldn't stop. And Katie like laughed at. We're like falling in broken glass. She's like, ah. And it was the best. It was great. And I signed up for basic training, Gotham's basic training, like pretty soon thereafter that, sometime in 2011. And that was all she wrote. Did basic training, set, a couple sessions, and then went out to Long Island.
And so that was in, like you said, 2009, 2010?
I think I must have met her in 2010 and was doing basic training in 2011, something like that. Maybe end of 2010. Don't fact check these dates. This is a stoned memory of the passage of time. But all I know is I was, by the time I think 2012, the 2012 roller derby season rolled around, I was playing for the Long Island Roller Rebels. I did a season with them. I tried out for Gotham that year, but I did not make it. And then I tried out again in 2013 and I made it. That was my first year with Gotham.
Okay, so almost a decade officially.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I know. That's wild.
What is time?
That's super wild, yeah.
But yeah, how long have you been skating? You've been skating longer than that.
I think I started hockey probably kind of around the same age as you, probably like 7, 8. But I had to prove myself to my mother by playing roller hockey first and proving that I could hang and that I liked it. And then I ended up being one of the top scorers in like this dumb boys league. And I was like, see, Mom, I'm serious. And then my dad was like, see, they're serious. And then we were just like, I remember there was this moment looking at her and she's like, oh my God, fine. Like, Jesus. I'll sign up for the local league or whatever. So I have a very similar story to you. Like I played like my town's league because we had Howard in my town, but it was like the town my parents grew up in, Parma Heights, Ohio. Okay. Played with their same like kind of up till peewees. I went through the kind of like checking experience and kind of started learning checking and hitting. And then it was there was a girl that was on my team for a season. It was like, oh, I played with this other team, the Ohio Flames, this travel team. She was always had kind of a contentious relationship with it. So she took a year off to play boys, which is how I met her. But then she ended up going back to girls. And it was that thing where it was like around that age where you're like, okay, like this is kind of the chance where you get to do like a U13, a U16, like starting to do some college prep. You get to play a little more competitively. You get to kind of be with a group of people where you're going to you're not going to be that standout player. You don't have to kind of deal with some of the same types of like sexism necessarily. So I joined the Ohio Flames probably also, around like 11, 12 or something. And then did that all through
Totally.
high school.
Yeah, that I remember that feeling really well of like not wanting to stand out anymore in that way. Like not wanting to be singled out, wanting to be like you're wanting to stand out for your skill.
Yeah.
You want to be the best player. You want everybody to be talking about how you're the best player, not how you're a girl. Like,
A girl.
like, yeah.
If they said I was good at all, honestly.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like any other situation like that where you just have to be so much better than the average boy.
Yeah.
Like to just be left alone, to just be, accepted as somebody who's allowed to be there, prove that you can be there. You just have to be so much better than a mediocre player of, the quote unquote correct gender.
Yeah, and I honestly and there were times for me where like boys would target me because they wanted to see if I could hang, and it's like, and I was always like, yeah, I can fucking hang, like I'll take your hits, I don't care, but like, teenage boys, they're gonna like target you and kind of be like shitty sometimes, and if you have a good coach, maybe they'll support you, but also if you have a coach that also doesn't really care that much, like they may not. And I also come from a family background where it's kind of like you're trying to get scholarships for college, like there's money involved, like so it was kind of like you're trying to working class background, like you're trying to do the thing, you're trying to excel. So I was kind of pushed into that direction a little bit.
Absolutely.
To try to make something of myself.
Right. And the coaches are usually people's dads.
Yep. Yeah.
It's usually someone's all crusty musty dad just on the bench.
Yeah. Some of my favorite seasons were when my dad was an assistant coach, because then I felt like I had an ally with me, which was nice. Yeah.
Right.
Good energy for sure.
You want to know what's funny though about the boys taking runs? I was pretty much this exact size that I am now. Probably just like a little bit, lighter weight, but I was this like height and general build when I 5'1", 5'2", something like that. Yeah, when I was in like 6th grade. So there was a period of time where I was bigger than them. And now I'm not bigger than anybody.
A little bit of a shift in direction a tiny bit, but I am really curious. So almost a decade with Gotham, right? Like decade of roller derby, more than a decade of roller derby. Best memories. I have to imagine there's maybe more than one, but I think of you as like such a good storyteller, and I feel like I know you have some.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, listen, I think it's hard to top winning the Hydra. The Hydra, obviously, our number one prize, our international championships, final gold medal trophy. Gotham won the Hydra for the last time, my first year on the All-Stars. And that year, my second year on Gotham, was, I also play with the Manhattan Mayhem, my home team. And Mayhem was undefeated in that year. Gotham All-Stars were undefeated in that year and won the Hydra. So that was sort of 2014 was sort of from start to finish, sort of like a, is this real life year? It was a very magical year in roller derby for me. So yeah, hard to top that. Real stars in my eyes moment. I remember walking into playoffs, my first WFTDA playoffs in 2014 in Sacramento. And, this is still, for derby people, this is still like the Gotham team. This is all of like the super vet superstars, like, OG Team USA type folks. And, getting that kind of reception by association. I had played in games that year, but it was like, wow, I am really rolling with this crew. Like, I am with the people at this tournament. This is great. And it was just a really, really special tournament. Did we play Ohio that tournament?
I think that was the year that we went. It was our first time going to champs. And I think that we scored 0 points on Gotham and were deeply humiliated. by y'all. And I had like
Was
the
that in
worst game of my
Sacramento?
life. Wait, what?
Oh my god.
I don't.
It was Sacramento?
No, it wasn't Sacramento. No, I don't remember where because time and place I'm not tethered to. So I'm
No, same.
unsure, but I don't know. If it wasn't that year, it must have been like the year after. It was like somewhere around there because
Maybe.
I can't remember if Gotham won the Hydra the year that we went, but we made it to champs like all of one time and we were kind of on our little uphill thing. And we had one game against Gotham. And I remember being like,
Yeah.
I remember playing that game and being like, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to either be on these motherfuckers' team or I'm going to beat these motherfuckers next time. And then like a couple of years later,
Yeah.
I'm going to be on this fucking team. I'm never going to forget that game and how like I
Right.
kept running into Slay's like ass and it was like in my face the entire fucking game. And I just kept getting like put on my butt. Who is it? Really, really tall. Why can't I remember her name?
Slady?
Yeah, Slady.
Sexy Slady?
Yeah. Slady just her ass was
course.
in my face the entire game and I like could not get past her and whoever else she was walling.
Absolutely. The one woman wall.
Yeah. It was really intense.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Hydra.
Yeah.
The
So
Hydra.
that was 2014 was a special year. Yeah, I got the opportunity to lift the Hydra as a true newborn, as a true all-star newborn.
That's special.
So that was exciting. That was really nice. And then God, I mean, I was very, very lucky to join a team that was very, very good and very, got an incredible amount of really cool opportunities. There was a whole period of time where we went to England every year. That was just a part of our life where we just went to England.
That's right.
Where LRG or London, Roller Derby would bring us over every year. We would go teach a boot camp and play the game, and it was just the best. It was just the best. It was like this is fake life. This is completely fake life. Those were each individual. UK trip was the best. London they were the best hosts, and it was so cool. I got to go up to Scotland and coach after one of those trips, and it was just the coolest. It was just really amazing opportunities. And I feel like another really big standout was the Malmo playoffs. The last playoffs that Gotham was invited to before the top, what is it, 3 teams? Top 4 teams were disinvited from playoffs.
I can't find Heroes ass.
Yeah.
Playoff working.
I'm still upset.
So they got kicked out for being too good.
Basically, they were like, look, we know you're really good. You can just go to champs. We're going to have everyone else play for spots to play you, basically.
Wow.
And I get it. I get it, except for the fact that those were like we were like, no, you don't understand. We break ourselves against each other for weeks and weeks, and this is like our big payoff. This is what we want. Yeah, but the last playoff that we went to was in Malmo, and it was the coolest. It was like the best energy. Everybody, it was so well attended by such like great people, great fans who were like so excited to be there and were so into it. The venue was perfect. The hotel was perfect. The tournament, like everything just really, at least from my perspective, so really perfect. Good job, WFTDA, for one of the best tournaments that I really was ever a part of. So, sad that it was our last one for what ended up being a long, long while, but it was a really, really high note to go out on in terms of playoffs.
Cute. Yeah, what an era. What an era on roller derby.
Right.
I remember following all of that and just, when you're on these really good teams, you get to do all this really cool, like, traveling and you get to, like, have all these, and I couldn't even presume to know what people's lives were like outside of derby, but I was like, that's what I want.
Can you speak to the impacts that the pandemic has had on roller derby? What was it like going through such a long hiatus?
I just happened to be reading a post that like a Slack post that I sent to the All-Stars in 2020, like, whatever that was, middle of March of 2020, or, within a couple of weeks of that. when we were kind of realizing that it was going to be a lot longer than we had hoped, or that we, maybe we're telling ourselves, where we had sort of been like, okay, well, we're going to watch footage every week and we're going to work out together and we're going to do these Zooms, just like, like everybody in all walks of life, apparently, just interminable Zooms. When we realized that it was kind of time to stop and let everybody breathe and reflect and stop trying to stay ready for something that wasn't happening anytime soon. And it really felt very much like a loss to be grieved. It felt like we went into a period of mourning. We went into this like long period of mourning. At least that's how I felt about it, for sure. It was very hard for me to engage with it. And I remember telling my therapist, this is over. This part of my life is over. It's done. It's dead. It's gone. And I'm grieving it. And my therapist, in his infinite wisdom and bullshit, was like, I'm not attending this funeral. Sorry. I'm not attending this funeral with you. And it took a long time for me to not feel that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially given how much of your life and your time has been dedicated. I feel like, at that point you were captaining. I think you'd been captain for like a few seasons. Also, like working at this shop, like, for all intents and purposes, you've really built a life around roller derby. So, it makes a lot of sense.
100%.
A huge moment for you and a huge loss, but also like, things seem to be coming back a little bit, and it sounds like you've been able to kind of get involved again a little bit, but also you had a big bad break. Do you feel it all?
Yeah. So, of course, time off it was a really tough, I think. I'm not somebody who engages well with exercise for exercise's sake. Fitness as a concept is not really super important to me. I know that's like a no-no as somebody who sees himself as an athlete. But, it's just, I think that's a really fraught relationship. I think that, growing up, the idea of being fit, came with a lot of specific aesthetic parameters. You had to look like this to be fit. That was really damaging to me. And I just couldn't engage with it. So all that is to say that the idea of like staying fit during the panini, we're going to be doing the home workouts, and I'm doing this every day, and I'm doing that, and I ordered a Peloton, and I, you know what I mean? Like, no shade to anybody who was excited about that. That's, we all have our thing. But for me, it was not that. And coming back, in that initial, whatever, 2021, like late spring, early summer of 2021, Gotham is getting access to LaFrac at Prospect Park, and we're doing some practices and, sort of tentatively feeling out how close can we be to each other without feeling unsafe, and, how much can, what can we do that kind of resembles roller derby that will sort of scratch the itch in our brains. And I was coaching practice. I was demoing a pretty low-key skating drill, making kind of tight turns around cones in a what do you call it, kind of like zigzag. And I just made a left turn and went down directly on top of my ankle, dislocated it, broke it, and that was all she wrote. Then I went into a quarantine part deux, and it was the worst. It was the fucking worst. Do not recommend. 0 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, from an outsider looking in, you know, just kind of knowing you and knowing how important roller derby is to you, and also just like how fucking strong you are. I remember just feeling really shocked and feeling like really very deeply sad for you, and just kind of like, shit, like here's the thing that you get to come back to, you know, and all of a sudden it's kind of like taken away again in such a way. And I, you know, not to speak to your experience, but it seemed like you were kind of struggling from the outside at various points, and it makes a lot of sense that you would be.
Terribly, terribly. There was, you know, there was a time when I was 14. This is a story from the past. That's history repeating itself. Time when I was 14, I went to boarding school. This was before I gave up the ghost on competitive hockey. I went to boarding school, and I was so excited to just like play hockey year round for this boarding school. And I quickly found out in the fall that that's not how boarding school sports work. You play hockey in the winter, and you play a fall sport in the fall, and you play a spring sport in the spring. And that was nauseating to me. The idea of it was like unbearable, that I would be expected to live on the planet Earth and not be playing hockey at the same time. And I had a full-scale fucking meltdown my first year of high school in this like beautiful, idyllic, you know, real sort of lap of luxury boarding school setting. And the ice hockey coach was one of the like junior boys dorm, what do they call them? Like the house mother or something, you know what I mean? Like she lived in the houses with the junior boys. And I went there like, you know, 14, out of my fucking mind, just hysterical crying. And of course, you know, you're not supposed to be in the opposite gender's house without, you know, permission or supervision or something. And I just like stormed in there and like knocked on her door, is completely hysterical. Like, I don't know, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? You know, and she had to talk me down because I couldn't picture it. I didn't really understand how I was supposed to like do life without this other part. And it felt very much like that. It felt very much like that. How, in what way am I supposed to, you know, do my life? In what way am I myself, or am I supposed to like move through the world without this thing?
Yeah, it speaks a lot to how ingrained it is in your identity.
Yeah.
So, could you tell us a little bit about the recovery process and healing and what that's been like for you?
Sure. I guess where to start. It's, you know, I thought I would really be like, I gotta get back immediately. I'm gonna do everything. I'm gonna do everything that I possibly can to come back as soon as possible. And maybe it's the, you know, influence of not really having an active season to come back to last year. Maybe it was, I don't know, being a little bit older, having had time away from the, you know, never ending sort of churn of roller derby. But that is not how I felt. I really expected to like push myself to be back as soon as possible and do everything as soon as possible. And then my body pretty explicitly told me, yeah, right. Yeah, fucking right. You're not doing shit. So yeah, I just had to wait. Everything took a million years. It took like every step of the healing process was a million years. You know, every person that I looked at their recovery, it seemed like, well, they were on skates by this point, or they were doing this by this point. And it was a real bitter pill to swallow that had nothing to do with me. That had nothing to do with me. That was their life. That was not my life. It was their body. It's not my body. And, you know, just I won't pretend that I didn't struggle against it for the entirety of recovery. I mean, it's still happening to this day. Still struggling against it, but It wasn't even like, yeah, I wish I could sit here and say that like I made an intentional choice to be like kind to myself or give myself grace or give myself time. It was not my choice. It was my body's choice. And I just, did what I was told, basically.
Yeah, that's real though. I think it's really cool that you're not just like reframing it as this inspirational thing. You're just getting, straight up with what your experience was.
Right.
Well, I know that one of your first games back was at RollerCon, and you and I have chatted a little bit about that experience in person, and it sounds like
Yeah.
it mostly went well for you, yeah?
There's a funny thing about RollerCon where and I think it was really amplified this year because, of everybody's time off and the fact that most leagues, the vast majority of leagues are nowhere near the position they were in pre-pandemic, whether that's financially or in terms of stability, your space, your people, your training, all that kind of stuff. So, but it's always sort of like, you come into Vegas early in the week and those games are like friendly and funny and everybody's like sort of like, oh, like just kind of silly stuff. And then as the week goes on, you get closer to the like marquee games. It's a little bit less friendly and a little bit more intense. And far be it for me. I love intense roller derby. I will never be upset at intense roller derby, but I also was never at RollerCon out of tournament shape, where you are expected to play back-to-back games, games every day. Maybe there's a game in the evening and then a game in the morning, or, in some circumstances, 2 games in a day. And the first couple of games were really fun, seeing people that I haven't seen in a couple of years and kind of remembering what it's like to be in those moments and, hitting some familiar rhythms and kind of feeling like real life again. And then sort of as, everybody found their footing a little bit and sort of like settled in. And as, the games got a little bit more intense, I was like, yeah, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this. And it didn't feel good. It felt bad. Yeah. That feels bad. But at the same time, the last thing I want to do is get re-injured. And the second to last thing that I want to do is have a emotional crisis in front of all of my buddies. In front of all my roller derby buddies. So, I think I thankfully was able to kind of recognize that I was getting to that point and kind of step out of some of those later games to continue enjoying it.
So, in speaking about not wanting to get emotional in front of your roller derby buddies, do you ever find that there's space for emotion in roller derby?
Absolutely. No question. I think those emotions would have been really bad emotions.
Oh,
You know
I
what
see
I
what you're
mean? Like
saying.
that
Okay.
would have been. Yeah, no, I think a roller derby is a emotional sport in a really beautiful way. I think that much more than ice hockey, emotional in a really lovely way, really great way. You can be yourself. Many times you can be your really authentic self and be celebrated for that, accepted for that, whether that's like, heat of the moment, just full on go fuck yourself, or, the joy of victory, the agony of defeat. It's all out there. And that's really amazing. And I think that, playing for Gotham, you have no way to not have lots of very public emotional moments. A lot of the games that we won and, the games that we very roller derby famously lost were on a big stage. So, I have laughed on WFTDA.tv. I have cried on WFTDA.tv. And that's great. That's awesome. I in no way would want to make it seem like I don't think that roller derby should be emotional or that people shouldn't display emotion. because it's our lives, it's our love. But similarly, and maybe this is a captain thing, maybe it's like a team leadership thing, there are some emotions that if I don't feel in control of them, I think like sort of undermine my ability to be present in the space, my ability to support my teammates. Ultimately, I don't want, even if I'm struggling, I don't want, emotional experience that I'm having to derail my team or my teammates. And, in league play, you got to dig deep. If you're really freaking out, you got to have a coach or a teammate who can help you snap out of it. You got to take a couple jams at the end of the bench to talk yourself, into a better headspace, or you got to, reset at the half, something like that. It's just a different experience. In a experience like RollerCon, an experience like a league scrimmage or compilation team, why dig deep? Why? Like it seemed like an incredible ask of myself. Hey, this is an imaginary game that people are playing for fun, and you're not, it's that Boston moment all over again. I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's bad. This is bad for me. So I'm going to remove myself from it and, not waiting until I'm feeling out of control before removing myself, not waiting until I've gotten into a place where now I'm, sobbing on the bench and somebody has to come over and like attend to me, stopping before I get to acknowledging that I'm not in a good place, acknowledging that I'm not enjoying myself and, taking that step back.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of to bring it back to the points you made around like kind of being in a leadership position and kind of self-managing and stuff, I do think it's important to maybe spend a little bit of time talking about, your experience as both a captain and a coach. And I am curious about like how you kind of got into those leadership positions, and especially like being someone who skates on Gotham, like you're not just necessarily coaching small local leagues, like you're travel coaching, like you're doing the damn thing
Right.
kind of a bigger way. How did you get into that? And how did you kind of find your way into both like coaching and also into, a leadership position as a captain with Gotham?
Yeah. So in 2014, my first year on the All-Stars was also my first year on league coaching. And again, I was just so lucky to be in a position where there were so many, really experienced, really high level leaders and coaches involved in the league already. The skaters on the All-Stars and also, other folks sort of in the Gotham orbit who were able to bring coaching expertise, like Gypsy Lucas. Our friend Gypsy Lucas down in Texas was a Gotham coach in that year, and is just such an incredible skater, just so incredible at teaching like fundamentals and basics. And there's a lot about roller derby coaching that feels very similar to a lifetime of ice hockey training, right? Where a lot of the same kind of rhythms, a lot of the same kind of drill setups. So it felt really natural. And the way that Gotham, as a particular league, does its sort of, league administration, division of labor kind of stuff, coaching within Gotham really has historically been, been in charge of, or sort of had a purview that included a lot of really important cultural things for the league. A lot of what is the word I'm looking for? Team structures and composition and sort of, what we're focusing on competitively, what we're focusing on in terms of skills we think are important, strategy, gameplay, things we think are important. And, you have to have a league volunteer job. So that felt like the place I could best apply myself, the place where, I could be able to sort of share the best of myself with the league off skates. So, being able to coach the league with alongside so many of, the incredible skaters and coaches who were already in that position was a great education in terms of the way that kind of stuff is handled in roller derby. And then, hey, once again, Gotham skaters, especially Gotham All-Stars, just get fucking mind-blowing opportunities, just really cool opportunities. So I was able to coach boot camps with the All-Stars, in situations like those London trips where we went and coached a boot camp, and I got a lot of practice in as a roller derby coach with my league and with my team before kind of going out on my own or being invited to places on my own to coach. And that kind of coincided with being a team captain as well. Those things sort of went hand in hand.
Cool. Did you aspire to captainship, or was that something that sort of naturally came for you? Like, sort of came in, like you came into it, or it sort of happened for you? Was that something that you kind of saw for yourself as a younger person, or like, have you found yourself in leadership positions over time?
Yes and no. I think I have like a real fraught relationship with leadership in that, like, I can't be the ultimate. I have to have a boss above above me. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to keep me honest. And, in roller derby, I, really got to enjoy a number of incredibly strong leadership teams where, it's not so much about having a boss that I answer to or like a leader that I answer to, but, a group of peers that we could hash things out and sort of share that responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. It's something that I think I feel called to in some way, whether or not I want to. I feel called to it in a lot of circumstances, and I think kind of similar to skating, it's something that I'm good at. So there's a sort of feedback loop where it's like, oh, you're doing well, so you should take on more of this, and you're doing well, so you should do more. And you start to, I start to see myself as like, oh, this is something I can do. This is something that I think of myself as being good at. So it makes it easier to imagine taking on those roles and, for different groups or teams or what have you.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you had sort of this beautiful combination of like almost like scaffolding and like modeling, right? Like people sort of modeling these things for you, and
Yes.
kind of like the personality traits, the drive, the interest, the passion, like those things all kind of coming together, and also kind of coming together at all the right times in some ways to really kind of like push you forward
Right.
into these roles where you can really excel and kind of, it sounds like, lean into
Right.
some of those strengths. And definitely, yeah, I mean, it seems like there's this real collaborative, especially with Gotham. I experienced it like when I was in Ohio, at times it was very much like the coach was like the coach, and the captains even sort of defaulted to the coach, and the coach kind of called all the shots. And that in a
Right.
lot of roller derby leagues, I think sometimes. And with Gotham, one of the things I really loved is it did always seem like, as a skater on the All Stars, it was a very collaborative thing between the coaches, the captains, like the bench manager, like that whole team really working together and really being thoughtful together about decision making, which is cool. It was always really cool to be a part of that, and can co-sign that you are a good leader off the track.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, you think about our dear friend and actual real life boss, Bonnie Thunders, who was the forever captain of the Gotham All-Stars, setting a very, very particular example. And also, when you have people like Bonnie, people like OMG, Mick, Slady, Donna, take your pick of the, 2014 Gotham All Stars, you want that leadership. You know what I mean? You want that leadership to come from the skaters. You want to hear from the people who are leading you on the track and who have so much incredible talent and experience to share. So I remember there was a very specific shift at some point in that, 2014, 15, 16 kind of time where the team like very specifically said, we want the captains to lead practices. We want to hear feedback from the captains, and that isn't like, exactly like you're saying for different leagues, it kind of depends on your personnel. Being a great skater and being a great coach, being a great skater and being a great captain are not the same skill. Those are actually different skill sets. So it's not necessarily incumbent on every captain to be the best practice coach or, the person that you really want to go to for every skater's feedback. But we were really lucky to have such an incredible group of leaders on the team that it just made natural sense to kind of go with that format, and it made the skaters on the team feel good.
Yeah. Speaking of leadership stuff, we can also transition a little bit. You've also been managing Five Stride for a couple of years.
Yeah.
How's that
Yeah.
for you?
I don't even know. I can't even remember. I think maybe 20. It was after Bonnie and OMG went to the West Coast, went to Portland. It was 2017, I want to say. Yeah, because actually I was working at a corporate gig, and the World Cup of Roller Derby was happening. I was going to play with, USA, and it got delayed. It was supposed to be in 2017. It was like it was going to be at the beginning of 2018. And around this time, this corporate job got exponentially more corporate. It had started as kind of a startup job and, like silly, scrappy startup situation, and became super corporate. And they told me, in no uncertain terms, like, you can't take any more time off because it's, every derby trip, how many derby trips a year did we take? 5, 6, something like that on that order. And I had just gotten done with a full year of that and was now like, hey, I'm, gonna fuck off to England for 2 weeks to go live my dreams. And they told me, no, I'm sorry, you can't go. And I called Bonnie, and I don't remember if I called Bonnie or my mom first. Spiritually the same act. And said, Bonnie, I'm about to lose my job because there's not a situation where I'm not going to the World Cup this year. I can't, like, what am I going to do? I need a job. And they were like, well, Five Stride needs employees. So I started, I did not become the manager at that point. Cornelius O'Mahogany was still the manager at that point, but I started working part-time at Five Stride and part-time at a cafe in Bed-Stuy. Shout out to Milk and Pull. A job which, of course, Roller Derby also provided. Shout out to Lo Mame, who hired me to
Milk
barista.
and Pull, local
Milk and
Black-owned
Pull.
business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Joe, the man, the myth, the legend. So, yeah, that was a beautiful little series of events where, Roller Derby provided for me when I was like, hey, Roller Derby, I'm going to throw my life in the trash can to go run away to England and play in the World Cup. And, no regrets. No regrets whatsoever. Would do again.
Roxy has a very particular spin that she likes to put on certain words, which is so fun. Like, regrets, trash.
I don't know what you mean.
Put it in the trash.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Hansel and I spent like 15 minutes talking about the way that we pronounce the word crayon. Crane? Crane. I don't know what's going on in Chicago. Crane? Cran.
Crayon.
A few crayon.
The crane. Do you say crane?
No, I say crayon.
I say crayon. So CRM,
Crayon!
baby. It's my crayon. Give me that crayon.
Pass me that crayon.
Works for me. People know what I'm talking about when there's crayons around.
Oh, that's true. And well, we were talking about it. I was like, oh my God, I never realized that you say this word this way. And she was like, yeah, why would you? Well, how often do we talk about crayons in our life?
I love it. Yeah, it's interesting. Derby definitely provided for me too, because I remember when I was moving to New York, I was like, I have this skate shop. I guess I gotta sell it because I know that there's already one in New York, and there are people whose good graces I would like to be in, who I would be directly competing with should I move this skate shop to New York. So I cannot. And also, like, owning a business in New York City seems a lot different than owning a business in Central Ohio. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So I was doing that, I was getting ready to go to high school and stuff, and I went to RollerCon, and I happened to be like in a game with OMG, and we're gearing up near each other, and they're kind of like, "How's it going? I hear you in New York." I'm like, "Yeah, it's coming up. Like in a couple months, I'm gonna be there. Like looking for spots, whatever, looking for work." And they were like, "Well, you know how to mount roller skates, right? You build them." And I was like, "Yeah, that's like a lot of my business, And they were like, "Well, look, here's the thing. We need someone who could do that at the roller skate shop." And I was like, "You don't say. You don't say. Are you offering me a job?" And they were like, yeah, pretty much. And I was like, all right, sick. So, before I even got here and like moved here, I kind of had, it wasn't, there's no contracts or anything, but it was a job. I had a job right out to New York, and that was a huge outlet for me.
Right.
And I've had similar things where it's like just kind of being in community in that way. And Derby, people do, I think, generally really try to look out for each other as much as they can. So kind of a similar situation.
Yeah.
Falling into 5 strides, good graces by being like, I need work. SOS, please help me.
Yeah.
So can provide.
I've told you the story about Susie Hot Rod and I in Australia, where we went and we coached a camp in Victoria, and then we were going into Melbourne, and we had no plan. We didn't get a hotel. We didn't have a room. Like we made no plans for how we were going to be in the city for a full week after this camp. And I don't know. I think I was just like caught up in the moment, like the unreality of it. I was just like, I'm just living my dream. I'm just living my dreams, and I'm going to Australia to coach roller derby. And I've never traveled that far before previously. And we got there, and we coached the camp. It was an outrageous experience. And then we were continuing into the city, and I was like, Susie, where are we going to go? Where are we going to stay? What's going on? And Susie was like, so chill. I mean, anybody who knows Susie, if it does a pretty classically Susie response, was like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. We'll put a post on a message board somewhere. There'll be a forum post. There'll be somebody's home. We'll crash on somebody's couch. It's going to be fine. And that's exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened to this incredible couple who were living there playing for VRDL at the time. We're like, yeah, hell yeah. We have an apartment. You can come stay. We're actually having a housewarming party tonight, and come hang out. And we stayed, and they just gave us keys, and we had a beautiful, amazing apartment in the city for a week. And roller derby provided.
Definitely. Do you have any advice for people who want to maybe get into the industry a little bit, like maybe work at a shop or like get a little more involved on that level? Because I think, I've at least heard from a lot of people that are like, oh, working at a skate shop seems like the dream job, or like, who want to make skating a more part of their life, maybe through making money or part of the industry. For
through working at a skate shop or through coaching?
I don't know. I guess maybe anything. I'm curious about, what you think about trying to kind of break into it. Because for me, it's always kind of felt like luck for me too, a little bit like luck and like social capital, certainly. And like kind of who I am. And I think my hockey background, good at skating. Like I think all those things came together to make opportunities available for me and whatnot. But, just curious if you have any thoughts on like aspiring skaters who are like, I want to do more with skate shit. Like I want to try to make money, or I want to try to like be in the street more.
I feel like from the skate shop perspective, obviously, having a business, owning a business is tough. And that's, opening. I couldn't tell anybody anything about starting a business. No idea. Couldn't tell you. But in terms of like, joining a existing skate shop or looking to work more with roller skates, I feel like, being curious and not, I think a lot of people have a tendency to like talk down their experience with skates. Yes, there's a million things to know and different brands, and this was discontinued, so we use this pivot cup instead, and this, actually is a part from a 1920s model, and we've repurposed it, like some, real deep nerd stuff. But if you have knowledge about it, own that, and help other people understand it. That thing of helping to cement that knowledge for yourself by explaining it to other people, being curious about lots of different types of skates. Don't allow yourself to be sort of, again, narrow, ordering from the small menu or ordering from the narrow menu. There's just so many ways to be a roller skater, and so many, products and your boots and plates and wheel, all the different parts. So, stay interested in it. Don't fall into the hole of sort of being like, there's two brands and this is the better one, for any kind of thing. Stay open to that, and probably for newer folks as well, stay open to it, own the knowledge that you have, but also, stay humble and stay open to the idea that there's so many ways to be a roller skater.
It's so essential because people come in all the time and ask us, what's the best plate? What's the best wheel? And it's like, no, it's not about best.
Right.
Best for you.
Right. Totally. And best for the circumstance and the situation. I think that one of the things that traveling for Derby so much kind of helped underscore for me is like, you might be throwing curveballs. If we're used to skating on sport court and we show up to venue that has polished concrete, you might not have the best wheels anymore.
Yeah.
Even if you thought you had the best wheels before. It's a different circumstance. You're in a different scenario. You're working on a different surface, and kind of understanding what does the gear do versus what do I do? What does the gear control versus what do I control? Is it that the floor is too slippery and I have too hard a wheel, or am I really not like getting down into my edges as much as I need to really control, my speed and my roll? So like, not a set it and forget it. I know a lot of skaters want to kind of be like, I don't know, I have whatever I had on my skates for the last time I came to the shop. But I would encourage folks to try more things, and kind of be a little bit more ready for anything.
Yeah. So like I was saying in the beginning of the episode, you wear a lot of hats in both of our lives and just as a person in general.
I love hats.
Yeah, me too. Where does your coaching style and management style intersect, and how are they kind of different?
I think they intersect most significantly in directness, in timely directness. I don't think that giving people feedback, whether it's about their skating or about their work, 3 days later after I've hemmed and hawed about it and made sure it was the exact perfect feedback, is helpful. I don't think that's helpful. I think that, it's different because there's different expectations of each other, right? But if we're at the shop and somebody is saying the wrong thing, these 3200s cost $3,200. You know, like, no. Hey, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt for a second. Those are actually not $3,200. You know, making sure that we're kind of we're working towards a common goal either way, right? You know, whether it's in a roller derby team or our shop team, we're working towards a common goal. We want to work with integrity. We want to have a good outcome. You know, in roller derby, that good outcome is winning a game. In roller derby, that good outcome is the growth of our skaters, the good spirit and morale of our team. In the shop, it's, you know, similarly that good spirit and morale, similarly that growth, but also serving a customer base and making sure that our customer base is happy and supported, and, you know, making sure that nobody goes too far down a path that doesn't serve those goals. So timely directness, I think, is very important to me.
Yeah.
In leadership, regardless. That's how I want to be led. If somebody is going to be giving me feedback, I want it, you know, to the point. I want it in the moment and to the point. We don't have to apologize for giving feedback. You know, feedback to my mind is a supportive gesture. It's a supportive communication. And if it's not a supportive communication, in some way, it's gone wrong.
Yeah. So the next question is one that I wrote, but I thought it would be fun for Mac to ask it because they also partake in marijuanas.
Oh yeah, we're gonna ask you about weed. If you want to talk about it.
Oh yeah.
And we love it. We love weed. What else is there to
We
say?
love it.
Okay, this question is: skating and weed can both be a means of bringing balance and regulation into one's life. What roles do these loves of yours play in your mental health?
Yeah. Big ones. Big roles. If I'm not doing both every day, I'm upset. That's
smoke weed every day.
You know, I
legalize
every
it.
day. You know, the Barbara Frankel of it all, my mother, she is an ardent and committed pothead as well, and was always very into being an active stoner. We didn't, you know, you don't get stoned and like veg on the couch, although that's, you know, that's nice. Get stoned, take a walk. Get stoned, and we're gonna make some art. Get stoned, and we're gonna go to the movies. You know what I mean? We're gonna get stoned, we're gonna have a whole long conversation about something. And so, you know, that was like so many of my most successful behaviors was modeled for me. And I took to it. And I think that it helps, you know, definitely for me, smoking helps kind of tame time and space. You know, sometimes the passage of time can feel frightening and out of control, and it definitely helps kind of contain that feeling and give some clarity in that moment. It is, you know, a ritualistic behavior that I enjoy. I like all my bits and bobs and my paraphernalias. I like to have my paraphernalias arranged and in my pleasing order. And yeah, I think they're not mutually exclusive. For me, I think, you know, I would have really sort of magical ideal days where I would be off from work and home and vibing and smoking, writing a practice, feeling really like dialed in and focused, and, you know, then kind of just take that good energy to the track.
Definitely. I feel it. I appreciate the sort of like not necessarily getting stoned and like sitting on the couch, but sort of getting into a more especially creative space. Like my vibe is always like,
Yeah.
I'm doing any type of substance like that, you know, it's like I'm gonna be making art probably, or like moving my body. period.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part.
I love that for y'all. That's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, contrary to popular belief, you do not become a flat puddle person on the couch. Well, at least you don't have to. That's not the singular experience of weed. I think it's been really fascinating to kind of see as it's legalized, in various places, how it's kind of talked about, and you have like your bud tender telling you about what kind of experience do you want? Do you want an active experience? Do you want an anesthetizing experience? Do you want a psychedelic experience? Do you want a experience of clarity? All these, you have these options.
I
You want all of the above.
experience. I always want a psychedelic experience.
Yeah. We would have these truly hilarious days where Thursdays, we would have all-star practice, and Pinky Swears, our buddy and teammate Pinky Swears, would be staying at our apartment, so she didn't have to do her long commute. And I would be, we would be on either side of a wall from each other, and I would just be, puff and tough all day and writing our all-star practices. And then, at like 6:45, she'd knock on my door and be like, "Okay, it's time to go." And I'd be like, "Okay." And we'd go and get in the car, and like in the drive from the apartment to the crash pad, it felt like a fluid transition instead of a like jarring transition. And then when you arrive, it's like, it's not like, oh, I'm becoming this different person when I arrive. It's like, oh, there's this like calm transition into big sports energy.
Big sports energy.
Jock jams. Roxy loves jock
I do love jock jams. Music peaked in the 90s dance. The 90s dance genre.
It's all anyone's sampling anymore anyway, so.
I know.
Bringing on
Although
back.
Mac and I once agreed that our two strictly unimpeachable albums were Aqua, Aquarium,
Hell yeah.
and Slipknot self-titled.
Whoa.
Start to finish,
Those
baby.
are two unimpeachable.
You cannot fucks with them.
Says a lot about us.
Oh man, I love that.
No one come at me about that at all. You will lose.
Yeah. No, I have other faves. I have other, guilty pleasures or, questionable faves, but not those.
So speaking of faves, before you met Sally Handsome, did you think you'd date a roller derby player? And what ways has this cross-sectionality surprised you?
No, I mean, I don't know. No, I guess not. It always seemed really messy, and I don't know. I think the parts of my personality that are, extroverted versus introverted, I think in like love and dating and romantic life, like I think that's definitely a part of my life in which I'm more like introverted or more reserved. And it seemed like a hassle. It seemed like a big hassle to, date your teammates or date your league mates. And yeah, I don't think I don't think that I thought I would ever date a derby boy. I mean, at least a derby player in our league.
Yeah.
And the timing of it, of us starting to see each other in that way was very, very like serendipitous, because it was right before the panini. So we had this time away, there was this like pressure where we were, gonna have to be teammates and opponents and figure that out alongside also like being together, like newly together. And we had space from that. And that was really cool. I feel really grateful for that, because in coming back to it, it's something where, you know, we have this lived experience outside of roller derby that we wouldn't have ever gotten to have experience together if it had never stopped. You know, there would have always been that kind of different angle or different pressure. We would have, you know, I might have had a leadership relationship to her. She might have had a, you know, we might have had different concerns or struggles in our relationship than the ones that we navigated instead. And, you know, I feel grateful for that. I don't know how she feels, but I feel
Yeah.
The dynamic would have been a lot different, probably, for you would have had to navigate
Totally.
differently, I imagine.
Completely. And well, and it's also, you know, I think a lot of roller derby couples have to deal with
Hello, little sister.
like coming to she's been silenced for too long.
A guest spot.
Yeah, might get your own interview. Yeah, but I feel like a lot of roller derby couples have to deal with like, where do I stop and you begin? And, you know, people seeing if you've come to derby together, if you've transferred to a league together, or were together before joining roller derby, being seen as an entity and navigating that. You know what I mean? Being seen as an inextricable entity together. And afterwards, it feels almost, you know, people who start a relationship after having joined roller derby separately, sometimes it feels like it's the opposite. Like, you really have to fight to not be seen as, you know what I mean, like opponents or league or teammates or whatever your previous relationship was. And so it felt nice to kind of get a little bit of the best of both worlds of that experience. You know what I mean? Where we did not come to roller derby as a couple, but we're able to have that time away to kind of form that entity outside of roller derby and come back to it together, and kind of, you know, specifically for, you know, 2020 and 2021 really have this very specific support system of somebody who is like riding this emotional roller coaster and feeling, you know, the same kind of highs and lows about it, you know, which is a singular experience in that, you know, the derby community is kind of a small community, a very big, a global community, but, you know, a small community nonetheless. So it feels important to have that kind of support, you know, within your life, within your house.
Yeah, I think it really speaks to the strength of your relationship too, to kind of, you know, ride out peak pandemic and quarantine together. And I know you've told me before.
God, and injuries. She took care of my whole
Yeah,
life.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. She was super supportive through your injury.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Sally Handsome.
Yeah. Thank you, baby. Love you.
Aww. Okay, so with roller derby, what would your predictions be for the future of Gotham Roller Derby?
Ooh. Oh my God. You know, it's funny. It's funny that you asked that question, because so much of my perspective, like when I'm talking to other team leaders or league leaders, I feel like I keep coming back to like, okay, so like, what do you think about such and such, you know, like with the understanding that we can't predict the future.
Yeah.
Because it feels like even now, even though we're able to kind of like get some footing and we're able to kind of build back up and try and get some momentum back, you know, it still really feels like the future is so uncertain, which is not to say like, will there be roller derby? Because it felt like that, right? Like it felt like that for a minute. Will there be roller derby? We know there will be roller derby. What will it look like? What will the timeline be? What is an appropriate goal versus what is a overreach or something that is going to, you know, set us up to feel like we've failed, even if we've, you know, made great strides. So I've been pretty resistant to trying to predict the future of roller derby in that way, But what I can say is the energy within the league right now, there's a lot that's really being questioned. There's a lot that's really being examined. There are so many things that we did for so long as a matter of like tradition or, that momentum. We're already moving and we're hitting these benchmarks, and this is the time of year that we X, Y, and Z, and, et cetera, et cetera. We have that space. Maybe not by choice, but we have it nonetheless. And there is a lot of great energy for putting something together that resembles reality and is joyful. And I think that that's always been, from the All-Stars perspective, that's always been our greatest strength. That every year, yes, we've been really lucky and blessed to have really talented people transfer in, come up through, our league systems, et cetera, but also had the space to step back and look at who our personnel are in reality, what our circumstances are in reality, and create a path forward that like resembled that honored that, and that didn't fight against it. And so, it's not a clear path. It's, still pretty uncertain. But I think there is that, excited energy to create something that is joyful now for us now, and not, be so entrenched in what was happening in 2019 and recreating it, because that would feel like a I don't know what I want to say, like an unattainable goal. It wouldn't be fair for us to say we're going to hold ourselves to these extreme standards and hit these benchmarks and produce these events and like things like that when the deck is stacked against us. So, what I think that Gotham will be able to, I do feel confident in saying, I think that Gotham will be able to ultimately create something that is really joyful and really cool and honors the experience of the reality that we're in.
Cool.
That's really healthy. I love that. Yeah, I really like that answer. Well, it's been a fun and wild ride. Thank you so much for making the time to chat with us today.
Long overdue.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see how it comes out. Excited for y'all.
Yeah.
Thanks, pal.
All right.
And I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow at work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, all three of us are working.
Oh, okay. See you at work.
Yeah. We continue it. The customers come in. We're like sitting with our mics and our headphones. We're not actually talking. We're just doing this.
Also, just so you know, I'm putting on the playlist tomorrow and it's going to only be jock jams.
I like it.
Or Aqua.
Yes. Or Slipknot.
Maybe Slipknot, we'll see.
Yeah.
Slipknot would be fun.
I don't want to like assault.
Yeah. I feel like Slipknot is going to really frighten our customers.
Yeah, I'm trying not to.
I feel like that might be. I can't wait to see what the Yelp reviews are like after we play Slipknot's Oeuvre at the shop.
That place is terrifying, actually.
Oh my god. Funny. All right, my sweet friends. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.